Hello guys, welcome back to this channel. Today we'll be covering Dropdown. And you know, Dropdown is majorly used in our recent website. You can see Dropdown mostly in our menu bars and maybe on some buttons and so on and so forth. You know how useful is Dropdown in our website. When you're having so many links under a particular section or under a particular menu, we have to use the drop down to indicate or to align them in the same menu format. So maybe probably you're having services, and under services you have a lot of links that should be connected under the services you usually use drop down in your menu to see other form of direction and links that will lead viewers to different pages in your website. So we're going to be looking at drop down today, and we're going to be looking at the clickable drop down and the hover drop down. And mind you, if you are new here, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to get notified when we upload a new video, like and share our videos. So without wasting much of our time, let's dive into deep environment. So we're going to be showing you how it was and how it should be after our implementation. So right now, this is what I commented some stuff out that you should go through. If you are going through my screen, you should go through that to make you understand the syntax we have to be putting and why we're putting it and the function. Now the first one says w3 dropdown hover class defines an hoverable dropdown element. So when you indicate the w3 dropdown hover in a div container, it helps to define that this div has the hoverable dropdown element which will be taking place or be handling, that which the div will be handling a dropdown functionality using this syntax. Then the next says the w3 dropdown content class defines the dropdown path to be displayed, meaning the path that should be displayed when you hover whatever HTML element you insert in the drop down. When you hover it, it can be a button, it can be a paragraph, it can be anything. So when you hover it, the content that will be visible or invisible without the hover, or visible when you hover it, is what we know as the w3 drop down content. It could be a div, it could be a span, it could be a set of images, and so on and so forth. So it's both the hover element part and the drop down element can be any HTML element, which I said earlier on. Both the hover and the drop down elements you are supposed to view when you hover the mouse. Could be anything, could be button, could be paragraph, could be just anything at any of the element, HTML element you choose to make the drop down effect on. So he said the w3 hover class is preferred for drop down navigation menu, which I said earlier on that in your menu you usually see drop down when you are trying to refer other links to different pages of your website that are connected to a particular main menu, like services. Then under services you can have maybe transportation, feeding, you know what I'm talking about. So you've seen it severally in so many websites. So that is on the drop down. So then after we do the hover, we're talking about the click, which is the w3 drop down click. Is similar to the w3 hover, except that the drop down is opened by a JavaScript. In this click over, we're going to be taking a little bit on JavaScript, and if you have no idea on JavaScript, probably I don't know, because I will not be taking JavaScript sooner on, but probably in some other videos and so on and so forth. Maybe when I prepare myself for that, I will give you a complete video on JavaScript. But before then, I don't know if you have an idea of JavaScript. Wonderful. If you don't have an idea of JavaScript, probably you have to try to master these lines of code before doing this. Take it to heart, then try to know. I will explain what I'm doing if you are not used to it, or if you are used to it, you can also follow me. So that is what we're going to do. So we're also going to be using, the last video I told you about animations. We are also going to be applying animations to our drop downs effect. So for now, we will not implement anything, and in our browser you can see this is the container where to drop down. We push over this button, and if you click on this is the container will also drop down. But right now we will not implement any of these w3 syntax inside the w3 class. So what we're going to do right now is to just implement the w3 syntax right inside the div. So first and foremost, we'll be looking at the first div, which is the general div that carries both the button container and the div that is to be displayed, which is the container, the drop down content that to be displayed. So what we'll do, we'll say, we'll go over to the main div and we'll say, we'll make it known to w3 that we want to use an over drop down on this div environment. So we say w3 and we say drop down and we say over. So we indicated is an over drop down, and we'll be using the hovering on the button, and it will over the content for to show or hide. So next on our list, what we're going to be doing is to indicate the drop down content we are supposed to show over through the button. So we're going to be putting it right in this place, and we're going to be saying w3 drop down content, right? Which is this one here. So I think here should be all for that drop down, and let's just try and see if it works for us. As you can see, probably it is a sign that it will work, because before now we were having the container div that has what we are to be hovering to see, but right now it has disappeared because we indicated the syntax of the drop down and the containers. We indicated the w3 drop down content that in the container that is supposed to be shown when we hover it and when we move the mouse on it. So right now let's just try and let's hover on this, see if it will come up. You see? Did you just see that? Did you see? This is our links inside the div, and we're hovering on the button. So we can also make this a paragraph or a heading or whatsoever, but it's majorly used for button and links in your menu and so on and so forth. So this is what it's all about. Okay, before we end this video, we're going to be telling you that on how we hover it will add an animation to it. So before then, let's dive into the next session. So the next section right here is, I don't know if you get what I explained. From what I commented out here, if you're going through my screen right now, you can read it for yourself and you're going to explain it to your own self. It said the w3 dropdown over class defines the overable dropdown element, meaning this is the div element that we're going to be implementing the dropdown on. And say the w3 content class defines the dropdown part to be displayed, which is the w3 content part is where it's going to be, is what div that will be displayed or will not be displayed. If we remove the mouse from the content or we mouse over it, it will display or not display. So we're going to be putting the w3 the drop down content on that part that will be displayed, which is this links, the div that carries the links that will be displayed if we mouse over it, and won't display it if we don't mouse over it. So that is what we're going to be putting. We say the W3 drop down content, and we're going to be putting the W3 drop down over on the general div that carries both the button which will be hovering and the content we're hiding. So let's go through it again, and you will see, and you see how it is right here. So what we'll be doing now, let's see something. Let's say okay, okay, let me just remove this thing, and you will see it won't work. It won't work. So as you can see, it's not working. So let's take it back. As can I see, it's working. So that is how to do a mouse over drop down on any HTML element. It can be a paragraph, it can be an heading, it can be a link. So what you need to do is just to identify the W3 drop down over on the main content, then you put the W3 drop down content on the content you have to hide, or the elements you have to hide or not to hide when you don't mouse over and when you mouse over. So like we are trying to show the drop down of this link right here. So this is what we do. We just put the W3 drop down content, and it displays it when we mouse over and when we don't mouse over. So let's now drop down to what we know as the next div that carries what we know as the clickable drop down. This clickable drop down will be taking a little bit idea from JavaScript, because in JavaScript is the only way we can dynamically access our HTML files on our web pages to do some setting functions that CSS won't take, just like maybe clicking, events, and some other stuff like that. If you're using JavaScript, you should know what I'm talking about. So JavaScript will help us to make a dynamic website, and before we get to the JavaScript, we just have to understand the syntax right here. If it takes you to just master it for the purpose of this course and for the purpose of this job done alone, it's okay. Before you can go through JavaScript in any of the video, or before I come and put you through on JavaScript. So right now we've also done the same thing right here. So it's similar to this other one. So the main div that is to be taking the function of the header click or mouse over is one we're adding the W3 drop down header over or click. So let's just see what we have right here. And he said the W3 drop down click has the similar function of the over, so it's the same. So let me just copy this thing out. And let me place it right inside here. Okay. Now we will place the clickable drop down on the div that carries both the button and the content we're to be hiding. So remember, we're going to also be placing the W3 drop down content right in this form, because this is what we're hiding. So what's wrong here? Oh fuck. So W3 drop down. What's wrong with this fucking guy, man? See W2 and so drop down and make W2 drop that content, just as we said earlier on. So now we have indicated that this is the content that we want to hide. on the clickable function. So what we'll be doing next is to insert the JavaScript functionality on the button, so that when we click on it, it will show the content we are hiding or we are not hiding. So what is it? How are we going to do this? For those of us that are not used to JavaScript, let me explain what is right here. So I have to comment this JavaScript syntax out already, so it will work for us. So what we're going to do here, first and foremost, you can see the div that we are hiding or we are to be clicking to show or not to show is carrying an ID called demo. So it's this ID is JavaScript to access the div that we are hiding when we click and when we do not click. You understand? So this ID makes JavaScript to access this container right here that will be clickable for us to see, or will not be clickable if will not be seen if it's not clickable. So this is the ID right here. If you are used to JavaScript, it says gets documents by ID, means it should get these documents by this ID name, which is the demo you are seeing. Then you add a class list of Togo. If you're not used to JavaScript, you won't understand what I'm saying, but just get the concept of what I'm trying to say. This Togo means in JavaScript, it means maybe it helps you to access features that are hidden within a click functionality or click event. Like maybe you can see your mobile screen, you have a menu button that should show a toggle menu, and you see all the menus list in a block format in your screen, your mobile screen. I mean, that is, we use JavaScript for that, and it's called class list toggle. So it's sometimes you might not use toggle if you are using maybe a closing or it's a closing symbols or a show symbol, just like maybe there is a menu and you're showing after clicking on the menu button, you see a times sign that is to close the menu back. So probably you might not be using toggle for that. You may be using what we know as to say add and remove. So when you say add, it means it should come up. When you say remove, it means it should clear it out. So if you're not used to JavaScript, you won't get what I'm really talking about right here. So this is the whole concept I'm to explain now. This JavaScript said the function is to create a function that will be useful while clicking on the button. This function now we are going to call it on this button right here. So before then this demo is telling JavaScript that this is the container that will be clicked on, and this whole thing will be shown. So I think this is the best way I can explain to you if you have not used to JavaScript. But if you want to really get this, master this syntax, I guess it's okay, and it will be a nice thing. So let's create this, let's call this function on this button, and what we are going to do right now is to say on click is an click event. So you say no, yeah, right. Yeah, okay. You say on click. What is wrong with this CTS? Yeah, and you say on click. When you say on click, you call the function name and you say my function. Yeah, say on click, and when you say on click, it's trying to tell us that we're creating an event to the button that is clickable, which is clicking button. You understand? If we say on mouse over, it means you should over on the mouse. If you say mouse leave, means you should leave or remove the mouse from the button, the function will take place. Or you say now click, means we have to click on the button before this function takes place. So that is how we are to add a clickable functionality to our menu or button or whatsoever we have chosen to be the drop down stuff for us. So let me save and let us see what it's gonna look like. So as you can see, let's click okay. Let me see, something is right, wrong. Something is wrong right now. Okay, let me check. Okay, my function is wrong, so let's fix that and let's see if it works right now. So let's click okay. Here we go. So when we click, it comes, and when we click back, it removes. Then when we over this, it comes, and when we mouse over leave, it removes. When we mouse over in, it comes. When we mouse over leave, it removes. When we click, it comes. When we click, it's removed. So this is how you can do your hover drop down and use your clickable drop down. I don't know if you really get what I really explained using this clickable functionality. It's kind of complex if you're not used to JavaScript, but the whole scenario you are to get here is that you need to capture and understand this basic syntax of code here. And you can see this w3 show. This is the major functionality right here. If we should remove this guy now, you will see that it won't work because there is no class. You see, so w3 made that class for us for it to work when we click on it. So let's go back to it and let's see what we got. As you can see, as we click, it comes. So next, now we're going to be doing what we know as the animation on this div that is to be hidden or to be shown when we over it or click it. So we did an animation a lot of times. So what we do, just say w3 animate. And let's just do zoom and let's see if it will work. So let's just say Ctrl X. What is wrong with this guy? And let's see. You see that? Did you just see that? You see the way everything is in order. After animation, we will explain this to you, and you can implement all these all together to create a beautiful and perfect website. So you can see how it transits slowly and it comes out as you must right, as you can see. So let's do that let's do another animation for the click. You understand, for the click. So let's say w3 and let's say button. You see that? You see that? You just see that? See that? So that's the animation and the drop down we have covered, seeing how we did all these things, and I guess it's suitable for you. Please go through it and over if you don't understand. I know this other part of it will be kind of difficult on the clickable, especially if you're not used to JavaScript, but just go through what I explained and few things I said about it. You can master the lines of code, implement it in your own whatsoever time you want to make use of it. Just implement it like that and it will definitely work, and you carry on until you have a full understanding on JavaScript. But it's never complex, it's just a little understanding, and you can do it whenever you are, anytime you choose to, just so that you can be able to achieve your aim on your website during your development. So thank you for being here with me. See you in the next video. Please do not forget to subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell to get notified when we upload a new video, and like our page on YouTube can also share, comments, and whatsoever you choose to. But do not fail to subscribe. So thank you.